Redditors raising teenagers. What's something your teenager has lost their crap about that was utterly hilarious pointless? My dad has another family and with that came new kids. I let his teenage, 14-15 at the time, son stay with me while the mother, father, and other daughter were away visiting colleges. I was only 24 at the time, 26 now, so he and I got along pretty well. He was a little pretentious, but was okay in general. He missed the bus and I drove him to school. He asked if we could stop at a Dunkin' Donuts. I told him no because I had to get to work. Oh my god. This kid starts screaming and yelling that I'm abusing him. He tries to open the door and jump out when we were stopped at a light. If you get out of this car, do not think for a second that it will wait for you to get back in. My son lost it when his older sister called him a trapezoid. I calmed him down long enough to ask if he even knew what the word meant. He said it was obviously something bad and it pissed him off that she deliberately picked a word he didn't know. That's a brilliant move by the sister. My sister flipped out and didn't speak to my parents for weeks after they refused to let her get a tramp stamp of Simba from the Lion King. Heartless bastards. Puberty is just another word for demonic possession. There was that time I hear her making angry raw screams in the bathroom. I ask her what's up and she swings the door open. She had thrown a box of tampons in a fit of rage and had a crazy smear of eyeshadow. She just stared at me with this absolute hatred. It looked like she was a caveman, because her hair was a frizzy mess and her makeup had smeared into a unibrow. Also her jaw was jutting out in a growl sneer. She grunted, and just slowly crapped the bathroom door while keeping the death glare on me as long as she could. She was mad because she couldn't get her eyeliner symmetrical. Had to hold my breath and bite back tears until I could laugh into a pillow for that one. I really felt bad for her. Puberty is a B. Man, I'm 21 and have been done with puberty for years. I also had a meltdown about my eyeliner on my way to a bar. This eyeliner looks awful, no one will like me, I am going to die alone. Even during puberty, when it's about the eyeliner, it's not about the eyeliner. I threw a fit at 16 because my mom wasn't offended by my music, My Chemical Romance. I spent like 2 hours following her around like oh they're singing about suicide and angst, mom I'm so bad. She laughed at me and said honey I don't care. That is pretty hysterical. Help your sister set the table for dinner. Number. Okay, make the salad please. Everything's next to the sink. You don't think I can see that? Do you think I'm stupid? What's the matter? Why are you upset? Stop pretending you care. Stomps out of kitchen. Slams bedroom door. Help your sister set the table for dinner. Number. I have a 7-year-old. Well behaved most of the time but who will sometimes refuse to do chores when it's his turn. When I get a no like this, without a good reason, I tell him I'm putting it in the bank. After dinner, when he asks me if he can play Minecraft, I cash out the no. It works really well and I rarely have to do it anymore. He ordered something online and was tracking the delivery. House is on a cul-de-sac and FedEx apparently missed the house number, circled through the loop and drove off. The screams of anguish and invective were threatening to shatter glass. I was trying very hard not to laugh and wasn't able to say anything comforting. He assumed a fetal position and was moaning over and over. He didn't even slow down. They said it would be here. Soon he crawled off to lick his wounds and wasn't watching when the truck returned with his package. About 20 minutes later he returned, now red-faced, furious and literally vibrating with anger because the tracking program showed it as being delivered. I calmly and with a straight face gave him the thing and of course I tried to make it a teaching moment about tempering one's expectations and so forth, but I was, at that point, just a middle-aged butthole trying to tell him how to live his life. I definitely wouldn't say it was pointless, but I think my son was 13 when he lost 183 hours of gameplay on his current Pokemon game. The howl of anguish was horrifying, and his expression was, well, if he'd been stabbed in the gut, I think he would have made the same face. Initially I thought he'd been physically injured somehow. I felt really bad for him. He got over it and everything, of course, but it was a dark couple of days, and there was nothing we could do to make it better. Losing a save on Pokemon is the absolute worst. My team I was so attached to, all that grinding to get them all on even LVLs. It's a pain that never truly heals. Excuse me, I might need to take a minute. It's just hard, you know. Not quite a teenager, but it doesn't bode well for my future. My 9-year-old lost his crap last night about not having his own laptop. My 11-year-old rarely loses his crap, but has had a full-blown tantrum because I washed and packed his swim trunks and told him he could wear his regular shorts to go swim in a kiddie pool. It took him 2 hours to calm down. During that time, I found older trunks and gave them to him after calmed down. He said his shorts were fine to swim in and skipped away merrily. Teacher here. Spent the last few years teaching 7th grade, 12-year-olds, and now made the jump to 10th, 16-year-olds. I was excited that my new students would be more mature, but I didn't realize that when kids are 12, most are just starting puberty. Those hormones haven't really come gushing out yet. At 15, they're in full force. Here is one from today. Female student, not doing her work and pouting. Me, you okay? Student, ignores me. Me, I need you to get to work on this. How can I help you to get started? Student, I roll. Me, I'll come back in 2 minutes to check your progress. Let's try to have the first part of the assignment finished. Fast forward 2 minutes. Student, hasn't touched the assignment. Me, let's step outside so we can talk. Student, glares at me number. Me, listen, I know you're having a bad day, but we have to get you to do some work today. Can we step outside so we can talk? Student, no, my B-mom won't let Emmy go to the game tonight and now I can't meet up with Kendall, so I ain't doing this work. Me, you have to stop yelling. Student, B, I ain't yelling. Me, you are yelling. Student, crying, you don't know what it's like to have a P and a B-mom. To be fair, she's right. I called the counselor. Girl apologized later today. She put a full water bottle in the freezer for school the next day. I told her not to fill it up and to leave the cap off because it would overflow and break the bottle. She disagreed, was adamant that I didn't know what I was talking about. Put full water bottle in the freezer. The next morning, lo and behold, the water bottle has frozen and busted, leaving her without a water bottle for the day. Lost her crap. Seriously, I think I saw Satan at one point. I know I saw the little girl from The Exorcist when her head began to rotate after I dared to utter the words. What did I tell you? She began to scream and yell. Mostly nonsense. She kept yelling and the dogs started barking. I asked her to calm down so the dogs wouldn't get amped up. She didn't. Made the mistake of walking towards me while yelling. Smaller of the two dogs, still 65 lbs. Thought she needed to defend me and gave her a warning bite on her arm. Then she starts freaking losing it about that. This was not a fun morning in my home. Frick teenage hormones. As a teenager myself, I can tell you that 85% of the reason why she was mad was because she was wrong and you were right. That's the most aggravating thing to teenagers, because we just want to believe we have the world figured out. Shorts that were too small. My definition of shorts that fit correctly and his definition are totally different. He thinks if they don't sag, they are too small. This has resulted in crying. On the flip side, my 2-year-old daughter will cry and scream and flail because I put a pull-up on her when she wants to wear a diaper. When I was younger I wouldn't wear shorts that went above my knees. I guess I saw them as short shorts and guys weren't supposed to show so much leg, so it freaked me out. When my two kids were 11 and 9, I drove with them back to Missouri to visit my mom and extended family, including my aunt and her 2 sons, my cousins, who were then 14 and 12. Just before my children and I left to return to our home in South Carolina at the time, my mom and aunt decided to splurge and take us out to the new Arby's that they had recently opened up in my hometown. Well, somehow my cousins got the idea that we were going to the McDonald's across the street, or maybe they thought that they would be allowed to just eat across the street. Anyway, they walked into the restaurant. Guess they didn't know what Arby's sold, and then just lost their crap because we were having Arby's and not McDonald's. Both cousins, simultaneous temper tantrums, crying. I remember one of them was lying down in the booth and crying like he had lost his last friend. So much crying that everyone else in our party had ordered the food, gotten it, and were sitting nearby eating it, and they were still crying. I remember my own children were looking at them and wondering WTH was wrong with them. The event is still referred to in our family as the Great Arby's Incident. This made me laugh way too much. I have no kids, but my little brother stays with me for the summer every year. He's 12 right now, so he is going through his changes. Anyways, we were getting ready to leave for the day and I noticed he is ready, except he was wearing PJ shorts. I told him to put basketball shorts on instead and he had a complete meltdown. He was crying and saying that he can't because he has shoes on. He locked himself in the bathroom. It was hilarious and I couldn't help but laugh. Haha, I would be a terrible parent. When I've babysat and the kids do ridiculous things like this, I just laugh, which makes them more upset. But come to think of it, my dad laughed at me all the time when I was a kid and it made me really angry. My best friend's daughter thought her life was over because her boyfriend couldn't find a cummerbund that matched her prom dress. She spent like 40 hours on the phone trying to rectify the situation. She was in tears for weeks. Steam games not working, and national politics. Always entertaining to listen to my kids' frustrations with national politics. On behalf of my parents, I tried to play video games in the living room where our entire family was congregating. When asked to turn it off, I threw a fit and stormed out into the sunroom. I'm sorry, family. He had to get a haircut. He's spent many a year growing out and maintaining his hockey flow. This year he applied and got accepted to help out with the local university hockey team. He is basically a locker room attendant water boy, but it's a big deal for him. One of the requirements of the position is that you have to look professional, as you'll be involved with greeting, helping out visiting teams, attending public events with the team, working with the equipment manager at the games, etc. The guy running the program told us that he's in, but only if he's willing to get a haircut. I require all of the boys in the program to look professional. That includes their hair. His reaction to this would have made you think that we told him the requirement was losing a finger. He almost quit and withdrew his application. He cried. He refused. He cried some more. He pleaded. He cried again. He finally agreed to get it cut and then refused to pick out a style. He cried again, he cried again, he cried again, he cried again. After it was cut, he spent the entire weekend sulking about the loss of his flow. It was all the 13-year-old teen angst you can imagine. For my parents, when I was 15, I couldn't get my hair smooth enough in a ponytail. I used to cry and scream in the mirror every morning before school. Oh yes, so many gems from my 8th grader. She lost IT because I wouldn't promise to buy her a new Ford Mustang as her first car. We are a very middle class type of family and have never even purchased a new car for ourselves. She locked herself in her room for over 8 hours, then refused to talk to me for several days. My crime? I informed her that if I ended up getting a new PlayStation, it would be going in the living room for everyone to play. She had assumed that all new gaming systems should be solely her property, as she is the true gamer in the family. Screaming, sobbing tears, coupled with threats to run away and live with her auntie. I wouldn't let her get double lip piercings with her 2 best friends. She swears up and down that the 2 girls' parents have promised it to them as Christmas presents. Being local law enforcement, the school's principal, and a local teacher, I'm so worried that these conservative parents totally agreed to this, and I must be completely unreasonable. Right, Reddit? All I asked was for her to let the dog inside. She was sitting about 3 feet from the door, while I was running around the kitchen making dinner. I was still in my work clothes, and had come home about an hour late. Oh my god. You make me do everything. You seriously do nothing. You come home from your stupid, easy desk job and make me do all the dirty work. I am not your slave, and I refuse this balls. Finally, the best of them all I wanted was for her to use toilet paper after pooping. I'm sick to death of hand washing skid marks out of her underwear, and I made her very aware of the fact. She flipped out and gave me a variety of excuses as to why she doesn't need to use toilet paper, including poop does not stick to my butt because I don't get diarrhea and I just forgot. Okay, good, you act like it's a crime to forget things sometimes. Ooh ugh. Sorry if this was poorly written, as I quickly typed this out while at my easy, do nothing job. I needed to hurry and get back to sitting on my butt. Sounds like it's well past time for someone to start doing her own laundry. We were thinking of something fun to do at a later date. My oldest suggested something. Him. Can we do it today? Me. No, not today. Him. Burst into tears. Thought I was on the embarrassing dating stories thread for a second and got confused. My 13-year-old cousin's recent meltdown. She's smart, but not in the gifted program at her school and many of her friends are, so she wants to be the smartest kid in the regular classes. But she's also really lazy. She stresses that she really wants her teachers to think she's an overachiever, but then complains and whines and throws little fits because it means she actually has to do all of her homework. It's not fair. I have to like 2 extra examples on this part. Why? Didn't they ask for 5? You already did 5. Yeah, but I want my teacher to think I'm an overachiever, so I have to do a few extra. Ugh, and she's offering extra credit this weekend, so I have to do it, but I didn't want to do any homework this weekend. What a strange combination of wanting to overachieve while being lazy. I just wanted to be lazy. Screw achieving. This entire thread makes me feel so much better. Last week I asked my 13-year-old to put the dishes in the dish drainer away. I asked at 7, 8:30, 9:30 and 10:20 p.m. I asked nicely, got crabby, and threatened various punishments. He just refused. He sat on the floor outside the bathroom for hours without talking. He wouldn't put them away, go to bed, or speak. Finally, after midnight, I went to bed. He fell asleep on the floor. In the morning he was in bed and the dishes were away. I asked him when he did it. 2 a.m. I asked what he was thinking about the whole time. Staying awake. That child invented stubborn. Someday he's going to be a rugged man and save people's lives in crises with sheer dogged perseverance. But right now it's wasted on every single thing I ask, no matter how small. I have 2 nieces and a nephew. Their grandma decided to take them all shopping for some new clothes. She took the girls one day and was going to take the boy the next. The next day came and she got called into work, so she told him she would have to take him the following day. At the time he was 15 and he threw a full-blown tantrum. He slammed the front door so hard it broke the glass in it, then threw himself down on the ground in the front yard and screamed about how nobody loves him and everyone ignores him and how this was just her way of getting out of taking him shopping. I'll answer for my mom and dad. So one day my dad decided I should drive my mom to the grocery store when I had my learner's permit. So my mom kinda acted like a mom and those teenagers first learning to drive and started screaming. So I decided to take it as a personal insult and threatened to drive into a tree and speed up. So it turns into a screaming match between my mother and I, with me screaming "you never trust me" and her saying "you're gonna crash the car." When we arrive at the store, my dad gets out, shakes his head and says "you're unbelievable." I could have proven myself to be a responsible person that day, but I didn't. Dividing by 0. Long story short, I had my brother from 8th grade up. He would get in these ridiculous arguments with us about all kinds of stupid things. But the biggest and dumbest one was him insisting that you could divide by 0. He would bring it up every so often too when he thought he'd found a new way to pull a gotcha moment. It was so sad it was funny. When leaving the state fair, when he wanted to buy chocolate covered bacon, but forgot, he lost his crap exclaiming "life has no meaning without chocolate covered bacon." Mom, I don't have any shirts to wear. Yes you do. Please just pick one. I hate all of my shirts. I can't wear any of them. So you found a shirt then? I hate my clothes. I want to burn all of my them and just start over. She runs crying into her room, slams her door. To be fair, I'm in my 30s and have this same tantrum every morning. My parents would probably say my brothers, me and the internet. Having a 10-year-old watching Minecraft videos same time as I play Battlefield does not make me happy. My brother tried running away to live at his best friend's house because his girlfriend convinced him our mom was emotionally abusive for telling him he had to stop talking to her so he could study for his midterms. This girl had some serious issues, but he was in love, so he didn't see it. On 3 separate occasions, we had what amounted to interventions about their relationship and its impact on his behavior. Yeah, more like his girlfriend was emotionally abusive. This is the most embarrassing story I will ever tell of myself. I was 14 dating this guy who was 18 years old and I thought I was gonna marry the guy. Well, Actually no, I didn't really believe it, but because the entire world was against our relationship, I basically just said frick you and said we would get married. I stayed with him an extra 6 months because I was too stubborn to break it off. I wanted to prove to everyone that our relationship would last. I don't remember exactly what happened. My parents got mad at me for something that has to do with him. I mean, he was 18 and I was 14, so obviously they didn't give me as many liberties as they had with my other boyfriends my own age. I took it as them not treating me like an adult, goddammit. I raged, I stomped, I screamed, I cried, and I freaking wrote them a letter telling them how they didn't even care about me and how they would have been happier if I was never born. Wrote it in a letter because I can't speak in person too well. I lose my emotions and cry and never get the words out. This led to them bringing me to a family therapist because of my anger issues. And I took that as I'm angry at you for not listening to me, so you don't listen to me, and send me to a therapist so that they can listen to me. I quite literally hated my parents for the duration of that relationship. I even conspired with my friend to help me run away, and I asked her if I could live with her because her mom was a cool mom. And I was serious. I was going to run from my home, live with her, across town, not that far, like half a mile away from my house, and let my parents call the cops and search for me. And now, I look back on this part of my life as the absolute worst, most embarrassing point in my life. I try to hide it in the back of my memories, in the dark parts, where nobody ever goes. But this question freaking reminded me about it. After we broke up for like the first year, I was straight up denying the fact that I ever went out with him and had lost my virginity to him. I tried to pretend it never happened, but then I gave up on that, because it allows me to share these fricked up stories with the rest of the world. Please don't judge me too harshly. My kid is only 11, but she's about 65 pounds and the gym scale weighed her at 82 pounds. The school will have that weight for, like, forever. The teacher wrote it down in my file, many tears flowed. That's sad that an 11-year-old is so concerned about weight. My 11-year-old has lost his crap over A. being told his swim trunks were packed and he could wear regular shorts in a kiddie pool at the neighbors. B. not being allowed to bring cardboard into a pool. C. apple seeds he was hoarding to plant a tree. He was eating an apple when he found out, and refused to listen to me when I suggested he save the seeds from the one he was, at that moment, consuming. Of course, I have very little tolerance for the ridiculousness of tantrums, and react by saying do not cry for me, Argentina, at my kids. Neither appreciates it. Oh crap, my dad used to do that to me. Actually, he still does it to my little sisters, which is funny as heck. I shall answer on behalf of my parents. I once tried to create some stilts by binding a copy of a Tolstoy novel on each foot, each book roughly 5 inches in height. However, I couldn't do this without slipping on the laminated cover. Thus, I locked myself in my room for the next 3 hours and sulked about the injustices of life. I was 15. By the way. That's pretentious, but only slightly. My teenage sister lost her crap this morning at my dad because when she awoke for school she was unable to go directly into the bathroom to brush her teeth and so on. She was screaming at him about how she would be late, despite the fact it was 6:30 am. Her walk to school is 20 minutes and it doesn't start until nearly 9 am. I'm not a girl, but surely you do not need 2 hours to prepare for school. It depends how much makeup she wears or if she curls her hair every morning. It takes me about 45 minutes when my hair is down to my armpits. School is where you get judged the most based on your looks, so for her it can equate to getting early for 2 hours every day or someone else jogging. I don't have kids, but I teach teenagers. I've had kids flip because I just happened to look at them during a conversation, for telling them they couldn't turn in late homework, for asking them to stop talking during a test. The list goes on. Kids are weird. When my sister was a teenager, I probably was too, but a bit older, she got quite upset about nothing in particular and yelled none of you would care if I just rolled over and died and stormed off to her room. My mum and I couldn't stop laughing but eventually did to let her know we would care a little if she did that. She was not impressed. Not raising a teenager but was a teenager not long ago. Currently 22. Went to the mall with my family when I was like 15. Asked my parents if we could get a PS3. They said ask your brother if they will pitch in, and if you come up with half, we'll pay the other half. A very fair offer indeed. I asked my brothers. They said no, as they didn't play video games as much as I did, and I immediately burst out crying in the middle of the mall, right outside of GameStop. Cried for a good half hour, just bitching about how they were selfish and I couldn't believe they wouldn't pitch in. Not too proud of younger me. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.